Hello and welcome back my fellow friends to a new episode of Kerbal Space Program and a liftoff as per usual on this channel. And with that as well, welcome to the next episode of our small mini-series bringing the moon closer. So this is actually the first time that I'm showing this small little picture in a more flashy fashion for some people among you, I hope. And if you are some of them, please type it down in the comments below. I have already used this flag a couple of times on the boosters, some kind of as an emblem, like a flag. You know, you can choose flags to put them in boosters. So that's where I've used it in a couple of instances in the past few missions. So we're going to continue the this mini-series focusing on the moon, but more on that in just a minute. First of all, I want to talk about today's mission actually. So it is a bit special, not only because of the mission that we're doing, because that has never been done on this channel so far. And first of all that, and the second part is that this mission is kind of split into part 1 and part 2. So today's going, well, obviously today you're watching part 1, and tomorrow or the day after tomorrow you're going to I'm going to release the part 2, so that you can continue watching this. There are two reasons for that. Primarily reason is that I don't want the videos to be more than 10 minutes each, so they're around 10 minutes. And the second reason I'm going to talk just in a second, but first you can see here our main craft, and it is the Asteroid catcher without fuel. So here we have a second launch, which is, well, the purpose of this launch is to bring the fuel into orbit and rendezvous and dock with it in order to refuel the Asteroid catcher. And as the name suggests, we're going to catch an asteroid. And this is, like I said, something I haven't done on this channel so far. I did this already on my private account a couple of years ago. Well, since it's already 2021, I guess it's more than just a couple of years ago. Anyhow, that's just details, nothing to really sweat about. So, like I said, the second reason why I'm splitting it into two parts, I'm trying to more or less play around with new ideas, how to get the best out of the YouTube algorithm, since it's not very kind to smaller channels. And yes, I'm quite honestly trying to grow a bit more. That's my goal. But yeah, anyways, that's kind of a secondary thought there. Anyhow, so we have already selected the Asteroid catcher as our target, and I specifically launched at this point in time, more or less, in order to have immediately go for a rendezvous, in order to not spend too much time synchronizing orbits, catching up this and that, you know, like your regular rendezvous procedure. Since we can freely choose when to launch, this is just a more efficient or just faster way actually of getting two crafts to meet in orbit. So the launch itself was very kind of nothing special, standard launch. The only thing I kind of, apart from choosing the right time to launch, is now kind of more or less we are slightly kind of launched a bit too early, so we are ahead of it. So going to use regular orbital mechanics, just raising the apoapsis a bit more than necessary for an orbit, and then once we are more or less circularizing, just burning until those two intersect markers are close enough for a nice rendezvous. And this is pretty much the entire magic, and with that we are going to have a perfect rendezvous one orbit later. Now, skipping forward to that orbit, we are now here docking on the side of the Asteroid catcher in order to refuel it. Like I said, this kind of the second craft's purpose is to refuel the main craft. These two crafts are quite heavy compared to kind of the magnetic power of the small regular docking port, so a bit wobbling here and there until they kind of connected. And now we're just going to transfer all the fuel that we have and some of the remaining fuel from the lifting stage into the rear triple engine array. Since we already have the fuel, why not use it, right? So after this section, we're going to head into a bit of foreshadowing. So this asteroid catcher is obviously going to catch an asteroid, and there is an asteroid that I've already picked at this point in time as more or less our target, and it will intersect the sphere of influence of Kerbin in due time. So we're going to take this asteroid catcher into an elliptical orbit and then try to rendezvous with the asteroid. Of course, I'm going to talk about a bit more specific ways once we're actually going to do that, but the reason why I more or less summarized everything already before it started happening is because I want to talk about the I'm Bringing the Moon Closer initiative. No, mini mission, mini series. So in the past episodes, we've constructed constructed Lunar City as the first real episode of it, where we've constructed a rather large surface base / city, like the name suggests, for the Kerbals to kind of colonize and live on the moon. After that, in the second episode, we have constructed the Lunar Gateway, where we obviously kind of have more infrastructure around the moon for travel to the surface and refueling other crafts. Having a large space station is always pretty useful. And in the third episode after that, we have constructed a refueling outpost. We could of course use the regular kind of refueling station at Lunar City to refuel crafts or the station itself, but I thought having some independent secondary array would be useful. And now we're going to catch an asteroid, and the reason for catching an asteroid, apart from the fact that this is a cool endeavor, is that kind of the moon is the moon. I just have to pay attention to that, right? The moon is the natural satellite, or the biggest natural satellite of Kerbin, and there is no natural satellite of the moon. So I decided, let's give the moon a moon, or the moon a moon. This might be a bit ridiculous joke, but I do think this is kind of funny. So that's kind of why I opted for going out and catching an asteroid and bringing it kind of to the moon, since, like I said, bringing the moon closer is the theme of this mission, or the last couple of missions, and probably another few in the future. And so we're focusing obviously on the moon. That's why we're going to the moon, bringing the asteroid to the moon. Okay, that was now rather long. So yeah, anyway, so what we are doing here, but more in detail now, we've raised our orbit quite high above Kerbin in order to make this ridiculously huge plane change maneuver. And why am I raising first the orbit out to Kerbin? Well, that's in order to make the inclination change a lot cheaper. However, I forgot something rather important, and that's the time until the asteroid actually intersects with the sphere of influence of Kerbin. So there was not enough, let's say, time to prepare a proper kind of orbiting, a proper maneuver, so that we could catch up with the asteroid in a cheap, kind of fuel cheap way. So we had to brute force it, since the way when we came down from our high elliptical orbit, the asteroid was pretty much around Kerbin, and that's where we are. So we have to make this rather ridiculous burn here, where we are coming down from a high orbit around Kerbin, and we have pretty much to turn the orbit around in order to meet up with the asteroid. And this is exactly why I've built a rather large, well, there are two reasons for that. First of all is this kind of for the large craft, right, to have a lot of fuel and a lot of delta V for that, to make a lot of kind of not very fuel efficient maneuvers just to brute force an encounter with the asteroid. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We are kind of now racing. We're now racing. First of all, we're behind the asteroid, and then because we got closer to Kerbin, we kind of overtook it, and now we are in front of it. Now we're trying to slow down in order to kind of let the asteroid catch up with us, and this is kind of what we're doing here, just burning towards the asteroid until the relative velocity kind of is approaching, the relative velocity is positive towards the asteroid, and until it pretty much caught up with us, and then we can cancel it and just do some smaller adjustments like a regular rendezvous. But like I said, I packed enough fuel to just brute force these things, since the asteroid is on an escape trajectory out of Kerbin. We do have a very limited time window, and of course we could catch up with it and rendezvous in deep space. This was also an option, but decided to make it here in the sphere of influence of Kerbin. And the second reason is, since before rendezvousing with the asteroid the first time, like you can see here, I never knew how large this thing actually is. I opted for a medium class asteroid, so nothing too huge, but still, it wasn't quite sure how large this is, so having enough fuel to even bring a heavy load back was important. And with that, we have now caught and kind of docked / grabbed the asteroid, and this is actually going to be the end of today's part 1 mission, so stay tuned. Please subscribe if you want to see the second part, and if you enjoyed this video, I'd also be very happy if you would like this video. So on this note, thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, Spaceship signing out.